Okay.
Test, test.
So Pax is a little bit louder than loads.
Hold on one second, let me move my mic. How about now?
Yeah, I think it should be good. Okay. Alright. Okay. Both of you ready to begin?
Give me one sec, I just sat down at my computer.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm ready once Pax is.
Not a problem.
Alright, I'm good.
Okay. Alright, we're both Pax is good, loads is good. Alright, let's get started. Okay guys, welcome everyone. Today I have two guest speakers with me. It is Loads, who's the main shot caller for Digital, and Pax, who is the GMA of Apocalypse, who is alliance between Flash and Notorious. So before we get started with the podcast, I'll just give some time for both Loads and Pax to introduce themselves.
Let's go ahead.
Yeah, like Jackie said, shot caller for digital. I mean, besides that, nothing really else. I stream, but mainly for memes.
And I'm the GM of Notorious, one half of the Apocalypse Alliance. I also primarily shot call for Apocalypse, at least for the main ball, and I handle the macro shot calling with the other GM, Acute/Timmerman, who handles most of our flex and utility.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for both introducing yourselves. And so both of these individuals have a lot of experience with Node Wars in the Node War scene, and knowing how to run a guild, and generally know a lot about large-scale PvP. So that's why I brought them onto the podcast today. And the objective of the podcast will be mainly to talk about the new Node War changes in Korea, and to kind of expand on what Misery and Dragoon said last week. Also, specifically, what changes or what additions can be implemented to the new Node War system to make it better for the overall scene. So, onto the first topic for today. So last week, both Dragoon and Misery said that, on general, they weren't a fan of the new Node War changes live on Korea. And I just want to ask yourself, Loads and Pax, if you had anything to add, or if you want to share your own personal opinions on what you think of the new KR Node War changes.
Loads again, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go. I didn't really hear exactly what they had to say fully, but as far as my opinions on the new changes, I don't think they cater to the NA scene at all. There's no way any of our guilds are going to reach 100 3 times a week. Let's just say I think it's 3 times a week, right? Some node areas are 4 times, but yeah, it just doesn't really cater to the NA scene at all. I think it's going to be a negative, and it's going to be a lack of PvP, a lot of dodging, and a lot of trying to snipe guilds. It's just not going to fit us.
I can't really disagree with that. I talked to Gutter a fair amount about this, and realistically, we have 10 guilds, maybe 12 guilds, maybe 13 guilds that can pull upwards of 70 members on any given night if they have advance notice. And that's pretty rough. I think a couple guilds have looked to adapt and are just like, sure, we can do it. Particularly us and Relevance have been looking at this like, I mean, I guess if it's what we have to do. But the problem is, like, guilds look at this and they know, all right, these guilds can field a shitload of players, and I don't. If I'm supposed to keep language to a minimum, I'm sorry, I'll do that. But I don't know. The problem is, like, you go in and Digital is an incredible guild right now, easily the strongest Node War guild, right? And they're just running everyone over through macro play, but eventually a numbers disadvantage could make it so hard to play their game that they may be like, why do this, and I can agree, because it's not the only reason I talk about Digital is because Loads is here. That's all guilds, right? And then they've also talked about coupling this with an increase to alliance size to 200, which I don't think will hit live because it's just not fair. It is the least fair thing I think I've seen them ever come up with the idea of implementing. Because it's like, you sit down with every guild trying to pull 100 members out of 100 members, and then you give alliances 200 members to pull 100 members. How the hell is that fair? Like, I don't know. I think these node war changes, at least that never went live in Korea. I don't think it'll ever go live, but it is something people have mentioned.
Yep.
And it'll be a problem if it does.
Yep. So you think if these changes with the 200-man alliance and the 100-man cap for all nodes, do you think that would have even made sense back when the game initially launched, like a couple years ago?
I if you're a 100-man cap and one you gotta look at an alliance as a guild, right? I understand it's 2 guilds, it's an alliance, whatever. That's not how it works if you want it to be successful, right? You gotta look at it as one guild with 2 different. It's like a 2-headed dragon, right? Two different parts. But when you have 2 guilds compared to each other, and one of them has 100 members and is trying to pull 100 members from their 100 members, and the other one has 200 members, and they only have to pull half their people, it's easier. That the guild with 200 members is going to hit cap every night. Every night. It's just not fair at all.
Yeah, I think the alliance, because I think they are capping in what 10 guilds can reach up to 200 players. I think it's a band-aid fix. I think it's their way of saying, hey guys, just ally up with whoever you can. That way you meet the 200 guild or 200 player node war size or guild size between the alliances. That way you can get 100. But like I said, when you do that, you start getting rid of guilds from the potential pool that you could fight, and that leaves you with let's say we had 12 guilds that could show up to node wars previously before the 100 cap. If these guilds now have to merge with one other guild, that means you only have 6. And with as many regions as we have and being region locked, I mean, it's a band-aid fix. It doesn't work. Maybe 3 years ago when there was like 60 guilds all over the place and they all kind of sucked, but at least they brought a ton of people, maybe this would have worked. But where we're at now, there's no way, even with the band-aid fix to allow us to alliance.
I mean, even then it wouldn't have been great, right? Because the problem is the guilds that were good, the guilds that were on top, they already fielded 100 and everyone wanted to join them, so the guilds that were on top just would have got stronger, right? That's the way that works.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I can see this why they're trying to do it as an attempt to fix it. It just, I think it's a bit too late for them to do something like this.
I agree. As a part of an alliance, I as much as I want that change because I want to be able to have more friends in the guild, which is the way we look at it. Like a lot of our members and stuff that float around guildless right now because they don't particularly want to play the game much or whatever. Like it's a neat change because it would allow us to bring them back into the alliance. But even as the representative for what the longest standing alliance in the game currently, I don't think that's a good change. I really don't. I don't think it's fair. And it will force guilds like Black Rose and Cho Nation into alliances, even if it's just with their own sub guild, in order to even the playing fields.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're going to want to field 100, no matter if they're just bodies. I mean, even if you're a great guild and you only show up with 70 compared to a mid-range guild with 100, or 30 people is a lot of people. Unless they're 500 gear score, 30 people can make a big difference. Doesn't matter how strong you are.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. All right, so with that in mind, let's move on to the next topic, which is for loads and packs. What are your specific? I'm sure both of you have looked into the new KR node war changes in some detail. So, what are some of the specific changes you would like to make to the new node war system to make it more enjoyable and make the node war scene more active, specifically on NA?
I mean, the first change, I don't know specifically if and when they plan on doing changes, but the region lock, I think, is not good. They need to open it up. I think they need to include sieges as well. So if let's say Cho owns Calpheon, they should be able to still drop into Node Wars. I think it's kind of pointless to have a guild own 4 or 5 castles, but all they can do each week is own the castle, do castle fights. I think it's a waste of potential players. I think it's a really just a waste to the scene. The Merc system, either one needs to just go completely, or they need to completely revamp it. I think there's too many career Mercs. Just get rid of the system, force them into guilds at this point. There's just not enough players in the pool. So yeah, really just got to get rid of the region locking first thing.
Yeah, and I don't agree, or I don't disagree with anything he said. Like, region locking was the first thing I was going to bring up as well. Region locking is a problem here. It makes it way too easy to dodge. It's like again, Digital's the strongest node war guild in the scene right now. So how many guilds can look at it and go, oh, Digital just placed right there. We could just go here and never see them again. And it's too easy. It it encourages never fighting a little too much. And then people say, well, when you get towards the 100-man thing, people say the small guilds can just team up, and once you have enough nodes, you're spread too thin, and it's just like, I really don't know that that's how it actually is these days, because like 100-man top 10 guild could probably take 5 to 7 30-man guilds at once. If they're a 100-man guild and we're talking the strength level of like horror, for example. Because hell, you could put 30 on 30 and take 70 to defense, and they're not going to be able to do anything to you. I don't know. I just don't think that the change is. 100-man nodes weren't fun. I played back then. I didn't like it. It's just not something that I think is good. It encourages number play way too much, and I've always thought the caps were good for the game.
Yeah, I think the caps they added, 30 man, 45, 40, all that, were a good addition that allows you to pick, hey, my guild can field 50. That's going to be where we sit. I think making sure everybody's at 100. While in theory it sounds nice, in actual practice it never works out. Expecting 100% attendance every single time you war is not realistic at all.
I mean, it also just forces players into a burnout phase. It's not good. Yeah. It makes people want to quit.
You have to show up, or else you're pretty much saying, hey, I'm screwing my guild over because they're going to be down me, potentially other people who aren't showing up. So, and also 100 mans just aren't fun on a leadership position. I mean, having to coordinate 100 people is horrible. There's a reason why nobody wants to do siege or move up to siege if they're a node war guild, because that means you have to take the responsibilities of 100 people. You have to make sure you're coordinating all these bigger groups, and it turns more into a job. I mean, as a shot caller, basically is a job anyways, but it turns it into even more of an unfun position. I mean, nobody wants to shot call. Let's be real. There's maybe 2 shot callers out there that like it, but they're probably not in a competitive guild. So I think making and placing more stress on the higher end is probably horrible.
I completely agree, and I don't remember if this topic was us talking about potential changes, but lowering that cap to 50 would be a great change. I think it alleviates that problem very heavily.
I think 50 is perfect. I think if you chop it right down the middle, it's okay. I personally think the cap should come back. I think in the direction they're going, maybe they split it up into like the mid range would be 50. You have a 75, and then you have 100 or something. I don't know how they would do it, but I think the caps still need to be there for player count.
I think the caps were one of the best changes they made to this game in a while. I don't know why they want to remove the caps. I don't think anyone's asking for that, and I don't think I've heard anyone express excitement for the caps. I don't think that's something that I've heard, thinking back. I mean, obviously, we're sitting here and we're like, we're one of the guilds that can field an absolute shitload of people when we need to. Like, a lot, right? And even we're just sitting here like, that just doesn't actually sound fun. We don't really want to do that. Because then you're forcing members to show up, like Lode said, and it turns it into a job, forces people into burnout, and leadership hates it. I mean, I quit sieging, 3 years ago, and I've never missed it, not once.
I also think getting rid of 2 regions for anything besides tier 1s is pretty bad. And the same in return for them, they only get to fight on 2 regions. I think it's pretty questionable. I don't know how it's going to work as far as sieges go, but having only Balnos Serendia for T1s is kind of a weird change. I don't know specifically why they did that. I personally believe T1s aren't competitive at all, at least for the NA scene. And so
just
making 2 regions
on that,
specifically
Loads.
for them. Yep.
So the reason they did that is because with the new node war system, where it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, like you control one node and go onto the other.
Yeah, they did it so you don't.
I don't think it can work if you have tier 1 nodes mixed with tier 2, tier 4 nodes. That
yeah. I mean, I see it in the actual uses. I mean, they need it because if you want to do essentially what is a lattice system or a hex system where you're hopping from one node to the closest, it needs to be that way. Because if not, then T1s and T2s would have this weird point where their nodes are next to each other, but they can't progress. So I do see that. I just think, I don't know, giving them 2 whole regions, especially 2 regions that I would say are relatively good. They're better than Valencia. To be honest, I'd rather give T1s Valencia because that entire fucking zone is terrible. Nobody wants to fight on Gorgo. Nobody wants to fight on Basham's area. Nobody wants to fight in the desert. You can't ping. You can't do CTGs. It's horrible. It's mainly just going to be a snipe territory, I can assume. So, I mean, just give the T1 guilds that. Let them fight in the desert. They don't ping anyways in most of their fights. So, I think it'd be perfect for them.
From a shot calling standpoint, I had a war in the desert last night that was the most frustrating thing I've done in a while because it feels like your players aren't listening. You can't ping, so you can't really corral them, and they're just everywhere and trying to stay alive. It's so frustrating.
It's actually a nightmare when it comes to like shot calling perspective. I think if they got rid of the desert debuff during Node Wars and let you, I don't know, at least ping maybe the horse thing. I don't know. They want it for RP reasons, for nines, whatever. But let you ping at least. CTG should be open. They need to change that area if they want to do this system anyways. But Valencia is horrible. I mean, I would personally like it to be T1 area. They love that area anyways. I don't know why, but
I'm not gonna lie. If you took Ebolab Oasis, the little circle node out in the middle of the desert, and you made it standard rules, not desert rules, it'd probably be the best node war zone in the game.
yeah, because it's flat ground. You're just fighting straight up. There's no cheese spots. It's just running at each other.
It's a flat circle.
I just think everybody knows Valencia is just the worst area. If you're looking for a free node to snipe, you go to Crescents, you go to Gorgo, you go to Bashams, you get it for free.
I like to fight guilds on Gorgo. I think it's fun, but that's because both Clash and Notorious have a lot of experience on that node and kind of know the ways up and down. We occasionally hit guilds.
I think it's bad because it turns into stalemates a lot. If 2 relatively equal strength guilds decide, hey, I'm just going to sit here so they don't win, and they're playing to not lose, then nobody wins, and that is the most boring 2 hours of your life.
If there is a stalemate coefficient on each node in this game, I'm pretty sure that one and Bashams are probably the highest outside of Crescent Shrine and its unfair base. I remember us fighting, God, it's been a while now, 4 months ago, 5 months ago, out on Bashams, and we hit maybe 35 to 45 minutes into the war, and I said, fuck this, I'm not fighting anymore. And you basically said, fuck this, we're going to go stand on a rock, and we kind of just stood there for the next hour and 15 minutes, memeing and yelling at each other on via, I don't know, Twitch or just in-game chat or whatever. Not even really trying to win, because it's just such AIDS terrain that it's unpushable, and you're just like, we're sitting here in a base that's bullshit, and you're sitting here in a base with double chokes and hills with your wizards standing on rocks, and we're just like, well, we're a rat comp that can't push through chokes like that, so fuck it. And I mean, whether or not that's right or wrong, it's still just so frustrating because we resigned ourselves to stalemating an hour and 15 minutes before the war ended and just sat there for the rest of the time. And I'm pretty sure you remember that.
On the note of that AIDS node thing, I believe they did remove Crescent Shrine and some of the more AIDS Valencia nodes from the new Node War system. So,
okay, I mean that's a good step. Removing Crescent, everybody knows there's one base spot in there that if you get it, you're basically saying, hey, we can't lose unless we have 10 people when you have 80.
Yep.
Like I said, they need to change that zone. You need to be able to either CTG, you need to ping, you need to use your horses, and then the desert portion of it will be fine. The rock climbing western portion just east of Altanova is still terrible. I don't know how they would fix it besides getting rid of it, or I really don't know. There's no other way. Allow us to build siege ramps. I don't know.
Siege towers. They'd have to be a lot more strict with where you could place as well. There's on that Basham's node in particular. There's also another base that is just beyond stupid. Not quite as stupid as Crescent's, but it's rough. It's probably the second strongest base in the game currently that I can think of. And that's on the plateau. We used to call it Digital Spot, but then we started using it more than you guys did. Again, that's on the plateau. So, I don't know. I agree. I like Valencia because the server load doesn't feel as bad, though the desert pop-in is, I've heard complained about quite frequently. When you get out into northeastern Valencia, the 3-4 nodes up there, so Valencia, Castleside, Oncado, Evilab, and Ivory Waste, are really, really good nodes to fight on. But the problem is, Valencia Castleside has that desert rim on the southern side. Same with Oncado. And then Evilab's just in the desert. And it's like, if you could just get rid of this desert bullshit, these would be some of the best nodes in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. So another thing I want to ask both of your opinions real quick. It's kind of like a complex question, but I think it's a question that needs to be discussed. Is so the how squishy or the health of certain structures for Node Wars and Siege, and also, for example, how squishy, like a tier 2 fort is right now. Like, I don't think anybody enjoys showing up to a 50-man Node War on a tier 2 and having their base run over in under like 5 minutes, right? So what can Pearl Abyss do to maybe change or like fix this issue? Some aspect.
Yeah, I think the game wasn't designed. These forts were made. I mean, all these structures were designed for people being 253 AP a long time ago. But now we're at 301 with 301 plus with all this extra bonus AP. I mean, let's be honest. Nobody likes going into tier twos. You can't do a fight on a tier two because if you leave your base for more than 20 seconds and a guild sees that, you lose. I mean, the only things they could do are one, way more HP. They need T2s need at least double HP. I think all of the forts should probably just go double HP at this point. I don't know if the forts themselves have DP, but if they do have DP, they need to increase it because being able to kill a fort with 30 people in about 15 to 20 seconds is a bit crazy. T3s die just as fast. On a 50 man, if you're out of your fort, you can lose in one respawn time late game, so around 40 seconds. And this is assuming you're just hitting it, nobody's fighting you. Sure, if there's people fighting and you have to fight players plus the base, it takes a little longer, but at the same time, you're chipping down 20-30% at a time every like 10 seconds. So tier 4s, can't really say too much. We don't drop on tier 4s. To be honest, I wish tier 4s had 45 caps, 50 caps, because then maybe the game might be a little more playable. But I think tier 4s might be an okay balance. I just think all forts need to double their HP minimum. They die too fast from tier 1 all the way up to tier 4.
Give us tier 4 45, 55, 65. That'd be pretty lit. Pretty lit.
Yeah, I think we need them. I think we need tier 4s for the mid caps. I don't know why they didn't think of it, but at the state of game we're in, we need them because the forts die too fast.
Yeah, I'm just touching on this real quick. I had a preset 2v2 with Spartan. Spartan was on our team, and then Vertex and Snapchat prior to Snapchat dying like last week, with some rule adjustments so that Snapchat was allowed to play the game because they weren't quite at their strength level even fighting Spartan. But this was on a T2 out of Medaya last Thursday, and it was a great fight. It was fun. We were having fun for about 20 minutes, and then it started to look like the Vertex side was going to lose because they were going to lose. And Spartan was pushing Snapchat. It's 2v2. Spartan's out at Snapchat's base, winning their fight. Solid, going on. They wipe Snapchat. They're sitting there. They're pushing the stick. Vertex, CTG, Spartan. Spartan dies in 40 seconds. Full health, still have flame towers up. Or at least one flame tower up. Pretty wild.
Yeah, that's another thing is even on T2s, I think the HP of the flames. Actually, I think in T2s they should just lie to upgrade the flames at this point. I know a lot of people won't like that, but that's one of the only ways you can make it so that you don't get backdoored. I think flame towers probably don't hit hard enough anyways on T2s, T3s, and T4s currently. I'd hate to see the old flame towers where it does 80% of your health, but the current flame tower is basically just a deterrent, so you're not PVing a base down like without any stops.
I feel like you could do a couple things, right? So here's what you do. You take T2 nodes, you make soft structures about as strong as flame towers are on T2 nodes right now. You make flame towers about as strong as the stick is on a T2 node. Or, I mean, even then that's... Maybe that would work. Or even just the same HP as an enhanced flame tower, but not enhanced. And then you take the stick and you make this T2 stick a T4 stick, and then you scale everything above T4 beyond that, which is basically what Load said as well. And maybe instead of having damage come from the flame towers, they already CC through everything. It's kind of nuts, right? Have them hit people for percentages of their life. So like, you take a hit from a flame tower, you take 45% of your life.
Yeah, I think a percent-based damage is fine. I think it's an easy way to fix it. Just 30, 40%. You get hit by it, you're actually going to feel it. It still puts emphasis on cannoning down those heavy structures rather than throwing face at them. But if you need to, you can throw face. Just you're going to take damage.
So essentially, both of you agree that these structures and forts for node wars need to be like adjusted. They meet tankier.
I'll throw in a caveat. You can adjust their HP and not adjust cannons damage. I
agree. I think cannons have way too high of a emphasis
so
right
how
now.
many cannon
They
shots
hit too
does it
hard.
take? Sorry, how many cannon shots does it take to take down a tier 2 on your hands flame tower?
Doesn't seem like that many. Probably like what 20 shots.
I'd have to ask my defense lead, but
Yeah,
that's
that's fine.
probably right.
And-
It's probably less than 20, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah, it probably is less, but I haven't actually looked at the HP. But I'm gonna say somewhere around 20.
Yeah. On that note as well, we're not with the structure thing. Recently, we've seen that there's been a shift towards PvE damage meta when we're hitting sticks, especially. People are telling me that PvE damage doesn't work in Node Wars. Some people telling me it does. All I'm hearing when I'm hearing like VODs is shot callers telling people to pop frenzies. Like, what's going on here?
I actually have no clue if it works or not. Tried it once. I couldn't tell a difference. But I mean, everybody. BDO is one of those weird games where false information is spread like the word of gospel. But I actually don't know. I just think in general forts die too fast, whether you're using frenzies or whether you're using giants or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. I feel like it's one of those things where it seems like the old accuracy days where people didn't see hidden accuracy. I think PA themselves needs to let us know, like, hey, it actually doesn't do anything in the forts, or hey, it does do something in the forts. Just be more transparent. There's a lot of things in this game that don't need to be hidden, and hidden damage to a fort should definitely not be one of them. Like that should not be a thing you should question.
I'm going to ruin the whole server's fun here, but I know for a fact it doesn't work. I've done testing. It's not the testing that makes me know it doesn't work. I just know it doesn't work for different reasons. Testing, I come up faster with an AP burn, maneuvers, and just giant drafts, everything, than I do with a frenzy burn every time. But I could tell you the reason frenzies feel like they work is because when you tell your players to put frenzies and kudums on, you tell your players to be less useful against players and be more useful against structures, and your players actually hit the structures in the base. It is a placebo effect, and it does work. It is subconscious manipulation. That is exactly what's going on there.
Yeah, I could definitely see if you actually pop a frenzy, your players are going to be hitting the fort, where if you don't call it, they might be 1v1ing that Sork in the back.
Yep. Okay. All right. So thank you, Pax, for that clarification on the PV damage. All right. So onto the next point, right? I don't know. Is there any last points? Anything you want to say about the new Node War system? Last words before we move on.
About the new Node War system? Sorry, go ahead, Loads.
No, go ahead. You can.
I was going to say, I mean, obviously, Node Wars at this point are kind of stale. There needs to be a change. I think that our proposed changes are better than their proposed change simply because we're the experienced players who've been doing this for years and we kind of know what we want, right? But the way it is right now, it is actually kind of boring. It is very easy. Like, the scene is stagnated. The top 10 guilds, maybe 12. How many guilds was were in the digital manifesto? Like 12, right?
It was like 10 to 12, I think.
Yeah, basically, if you're not one of those guilds, and I think Frequency, who may not have been mentioned in there, you're just dead when you come across any of those guilds. And I think that creates a stagnation in the scene where any guild who's not one of those guilds goes, well, because these guilds exist, I have to be extremely careful on how I have fun. And those guilds, the 12 guilds, go, well, shit, I'm either fighting one of these other 11 guilds, or I'm just killing someone in 10 minutes. And it's not fun. Like, we went to a 30-man recently, and we fought...
Or you get zerged.
Yeah, or you get zerged because of your reputation. We fought a very strong 30-man guild. No names, right? And it just wasn't even a contest. It's not fun, right? And these guys are great. They're having a lot of fun in their scene, right? But It's stagnated at the top end. From what I've been told, the middle end is actually extremely fun right now. I don't know. I know digital gets onto those nodes every once in a while, but I think you guys get hard zerged a lot, don't you?
Yeah, we get zerged off. If there's no other strong guild, like emphasis on stronger guilds on the node, we get zerged off. And even if there is a strong guild and we're like, hey, we'll 2v6, 2vx, right? They're like, nope, we won't show up. We're going to walk off. We're not going to let you have fun. And it's happened multiple times over the past even 2-3 weeks. So that kind of shows you the state of PvP currently.
Did you guys actually get to fight yesterday on Rua?
No, we dropped somewhere else, I believe. I don't even remember where the heck we dropped. Somewhere.
You were on the California 30. I think you won it. Hold on one sec.
Oh no, it was the hex area. Yeah, it might have been the Rude Tree Stub. Yeah. We did fight. We killed a guild in 3-4 minutes, and then the other 3 guilds couldn't do enough, and then we killed the rest of them in 30 minutes.
That's
So we 1v4 the node.
structures need to be stronger. And I hate to take it away from you guys because you guys are, as far as tempo and macro is concerned, impressive. Like, you guys are insane, right? But I do feel if structures were more relevant, you guys would have a lot more trouble doing stuff like that. And
Yeah, that was actually an off day too. We weren't even trying to really win. We were just kind of killing everybody.
I don't think that changed. I don't think making it harder for guilds like you, guilds like us, guilds like Cho Nation, Black Rose, etc. The top 12, right? I don't think making it harder for us to 1vx, giving the little guys a chance to win, I don't think that's a bad change to the game. I think that they should make structures much stronger. Make it take at least, if you're way stronger than your opponent, it should take at least 15 minutes to kill a base.
So just to summarize real quick, what are the new node war changes that both yourself, Loads, and Pax agree with? Like, just to summarize real quick for the viewers.
What I agree with for the new stuff?
Oh, sorry,
the rewards.
Yeah. Sorry, not what you agree with, sorry, just what changes and what you, like, what should be kept, what should be removed or changed.
Yeah, I'll try to do a quick rundown. So I think the rewards are a good thing, obviously. PvPing for the sake of just PvP. Let's be honest, there's not that many people who will be like, oh, let me PvP for the sake of PvPing. They want something out of it, so they need rewards. They need something to incentivize actually showing up. Maybe that brings more people into the scene. Most likely not, because it'll probably not be good enough rewards instead of just going to grind somewhere and making way more money. The overall downsides, 100-man caps, terrible. 200-man alliances to fix that 100-man cap. While in theory it'll work, you just won't have fights, so it's overall bad for the scene. Region locking, horrible, terrible idea. Merc system, fix it, get rid of it, one of the two. Yeah, other than that, I think the lattice leapfrog idea sounds cool, but it's probably not going to work out with people sniping and avoiding each other, waiting until strong guilds lock into an area and never going there.
Yeah, I think that the biggest worrisome part or the most worrisome part of the change is that us, Digital, Cho Nation, the Four Seas guilds at the very top, Corrupt. Well, I guess Corrupt is one of them, right? And I guess Relevance are going to go pick a place to fight, and we're never going to see anybody. It's going to be a ghost town. If we don't see each other, no one's going to place on us. No one. And that's really kind of daunting, right? And this is why region locking needs to go. And I know it's unfortunate because it's talking about the strong kind of trying to find a way to fight weaker guilds, but region locking allows us to not get locked into nodes where we never get to see anyone. And like, say us and Digital both place on comma. I think they may have changed this in the second rule set. Initially, you had to place on a starter node and then build out from there. I don't know if you can jump around in the same region now. I think they might have changed that or adjusted
starter node thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because even then, it would take days before we could even run into a guild that we know we're trying to run into, right? And that's kind of...
Now, maybe an idea that might fix some of that is if you drop on a node, you can hover over, like you open your map, you look to see how many forts are dropped. I think instead of having a number, it just shows what guild is dropped there. Like straight up, you can't dodge, you know exactly who's where. And I mean, it'll make it easier for people who don't want to fight those guilds, but I also think they should put a cooldown. Like if you drop a fort, you can't rip up and replace for 30 minutes. So that means if you want to do any of that, it's going to take you a long time and you have to actually have some sort of idea on where you're going to go.
This actually brings up a different problem, right? And I'm sure we could discuss this real fast, but every fucking relevant guild wants to place in the last 5 minutes, and it is the most annoying thing right now.
Yeah, because most guilds are either looking for one of two things. They either want the free node or they want the fight. So the guilds that want the free node, they will look for the lowest fort count. The guilds that want the fight will look for the highest fort count. So what ends up happening is the guild that doesn't want to fight, they'll see, oh man, there's 5 guilds. Let me rip up, and it's the last 10 minutes. All of a sudden, the other guilds that are thinking the same way rip up, and your node is now at 1 or 2. And the guilds that did want to fight see it's at 1 or 2, and now they have to leapfrog to another node. And so that's why it ends up being this last 10 minutes of hide and seek trying to find the right node.
That, and you also get this mind game going on where it's like, all right, well, if I place really early on this particular node, I can pretend I'm nobody and people will come to me. And you place a node and disappear off the channel, which
Yep.
is something that several guilds do.
Yeah, there's too much of that, and I think it's just because there's not enough real guilds that want to fight, and it ends up turning into. I mean, really, the players ourselves have to make the content. We have to go out of our way to set up a fight, and there's a lot of guilds who absolutely do not like script fights. But let's be honest here, it's really hard to get a organic fight that is not a script, that is balanced and is fun.
The fights in these last 10 days have been pretty sick. I feel like some teams can be adjusted, but even with the teams the way they were, it was still very fun. And
Oh, yeah.
I think that the sad
they're
thing is
scripted
we had
fights.
to script it. Yeah, we had
Yep.
to script it.
They're
But
not organic. They have to be scripted. I mean, back in the day, like even a year and a half ago, you used to be able to drop 5, 6 guilds. You're like, okay, let's make the teams after we dropped. It's an organic fight. You try to figure things out then. Nowadays, you can't really do that. You'll drop on a node and you're like, hey, it's me and the same guild I fight every single day is here and 3 sticks. Okay, I guess we just 1v1.
Yep, and that's what it is. Is like I mean, I'll say this straight up. APOC can look at a group of node with four forts on it and be like, 3 of those are sticks, and I don't like the way this is right now. But the thing is, I don't think the change fixes the problem.
On that
It
note as
definitely
well, I think change was hinted in Global Labs and KR where they're hiding the node count before cutoff. So what do you guys think about that change? Do you think that will fix the issue or make it worse?
I'm not really sure actually, because I mean, it plays for both ends, right? Like you're blind dropping, and then at that point, you're kind of whispering people you know, like, hey, are you blind dropping here? Hey, are you blind dropping there? Where are you guys leaning towards? Blah blah blah. You might run into some random guilds, and they might just. I mean, it doesn't really change anything, right? It's still going to be the same thing because currently the way it works is that you're going in not knowing who's there for the most part, unless it's a script. And with them hiding the amount of forts, you're going to be going in not knowing who's there unless it's a script. So I don't feel like it changes too much.
I mean, do you think it changes snipe guilds dropping down dead stick? Like, do you
No.
think?
No, I think snipe guilds will always do that. Why? I don't know. I mean, let's be honest, guild funds don't do anything. I'm still surprised people drop sticks for guild funds nowadays, but yeah, I think they'll always snipe. It's kind of something they like to do. Especially with the rewards. There's got to be something to alleviate guilds from just really trying to snipe for rewards.
I will tell you this about guild funds: with structures dying as fast as they do right now, node wars get a little expensive. Pretty consistently, if you're fighting a real guild, when I say a real guild, from any guild's perspective, if you're fighting a guild at a similar strength level, you're probably replacing your structures 4 to 5 times because of the way flexing works and the way backdoor hits work, town spawns, CTG plays. That could cost you a couple $100 mil a night, and I think
Yeah, I agree. It could cost you a bit. I just think as a guild, most guilds should, as a PvP guild, you should assume that you're not getting a payout or you're not in it for the payout. So I think a lot of your guild funds can always just be allocated better to not every week paying out or 2 weeks or just never do payouts. Let's be honest, 100 mil a week is horrible. Who cares?
I mean, that's what we do, right? We just, when we get low and we want to chase fights, like we did last week, we just said, no payout. You just deal with it. Like, it's 50 million. I pay out in a manner where I always pay 50 and I pay T1 to everyone because I'm lazy and I got tired of doing that years ago, right? And it's just like, You just don't do a payout. You're like, yeah, well, you guys don't get a payout, but guess what? You get 3 sick fights this week. So, and three fights in a week that are good is actually not that common.
No, it's very rare. But yeah, to answer your question, Jackie, I don't think new changes do anything to affect any differences currently. Maybe snipes run into a few more real guilds and lose their stick, but for the rest of us that are actually dropping, I really don't think it's going to change too much.
Yep.
I think it changes the 5-minute musical nodes. I think that
it changes that. You just kind of lock in on what node you think is better, but
yeah, you just end up on something random. I think you'll see nodes just no longer have fights if you do that. Like I think a Thursday night abandoned or what is it, Wandering Rogue then wouldn't see fights. Taftar and Gorgo will never see fights. Actually, you know what? No, actually, I think the snipe nodes might see more fights more often but it'll be between snipe guilds. I guess. That's what I'm saying.
All right. So let's move on to the last point because we're a little bit short on time. So I'm just using Sage as an example. It's a new class that was released. When it was, in my opinion, pretty underwhelming. They gave it a couple rounds of buffs, and it became this very strong class. People spent pearls, people spent silver tagging, buying costume, buying inventory and weight, and the class was clearly overpowered. It's clearly overpowered right now in large-scale PvP, right? And now they put a change on Global Labs where it's like they're nerfing the class pretty hard, right? Now, this class, Sage, was never introduced on Global Labs. There was no proper testing done for class. What do you guys think on the general state of class balancing and them introducing changes with class balance currently right now?
Sure, I'll go first. So the first new class, Sage, I think is horrible. It's probably the worst class ever introduced. It has the highest amount of damage, spam iframe. So I think the damage nerfs honestly aren't enough. But if they're doing the damage nerf with the iframe into a super armor, then hopefully you can at least hit the class. Right now, the problem is you can't hit the class. They can iframe, they can run away, they can reset. They're basically taking a fight how they see fit. It's terrible for balance, massive AoE, medium range, and just capability to one shot a player, even at mid to high end DP. Wizards, everybody knows wizards have been oppressive. A lot of it has to do with slows, a lot of it has to do with range CC. I think the Voltaic nerf, while it's a decent nerf because it's your like bread and butter super armor, I don't think it'll change large scale. People are still going to cry and complain about wizards because they have range CC, range slow. Overall, it'll still be a wizard meta because in most games, anything with high AoE, the ability to heal, and ranged abilities will always be good. I actually think for a lot of rat classes, it's pretty balanced right now. I mean, it's been worse before where you couldn't even play certain classes, and they are slowly buffing things, which is pretty uncommon from this game. So hopefully they keep buffing and they don't do what they did a couple years ago where they nerf, say, Meiwa, and then they say, hey, we'll buff it soon. And then 3 years later, here we are, right? So they are buffing some classes. I think there's a lot of viable rat classes. They need to buff the rest of them or tune them a little bit with nerfs on the slows. Hopefully it helps them as well. I mean, I really think the viability on a lot of classes is getting better, but you have to nerf sages. Wizard nerf, probably fine. They probably should have nerfed some of their burst damage a little bit as well instead of the super armors, but I mean, we'll see.
I think Sage is poorly designed. I think that this game, these developers are designing classes way too quickly, releasing them way too quickly. They're not giving them thought at all. Well, they're giving them thought. They're not giving them enough thought. And then once they release them, they kind of set it and forget it, right? Like this change is hitting with Sage being nerfed. If Sage had been released in the Nova slot, I don't think Sage would get nerfed, even with all the crying that's happening. And right now, not right now, all time in this game, part of a class's strengths is attributed to this frustration factor of fighting it. I like to use Sork as an example. I'm a Sork player. Sork is a strong class, but it's not as strong as people think it is. It is strong, so don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's a weak class. But part of what makes people think it is so strong is how frustrating it is to fight, and that is permanently being in invincibility. Not permanently, but pretty damn close. Being able to absorb a lot of hits, like people will throw cooldowns at you, and you're just like, nah, that one didn't hit me. Then they release this new class, Sage, that does the exact same thing, except the second you look away from it, you die in one hit, which is Sork. You die in 4 to 5 hits, and it's a combo, and it's quick, and it's something people complain about. I don't know why they decided to up it, make it AoE, and huge damage in one class. Like, Sage is like a 3-button class that does the same thing Sork does, and only good Sorks can really get away with it. I don't know, dude. Sage just wasn't thought out. However, I will say it's very clear that Pearl Abyss is attempting to listen to our requests. They are addressing things directly that we want. A lot of times the player doesn't actually understand the nerfs that they're asking for, so players don't really know what they're asking for. They say things like, suck wizard's too strong, I want this, 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 and this, and the developer has to look and go, I think you're going overboard right there, but I understand that you want some changes, so I'll look into it. I don't believe Sage is being over nerfed. I actually think it'll still be strong after these changes. But I'm happy to see all the changes that are coming out, and I'm happy to see how directly they coincide with what we've been complaining about for a very long time. I, however, don't think that the slow nerf is quite enough. And I think that slows, aside from iframes, I think slows might be the second most frustrating thing in this game. That is that I think most players just don't want to play large scale because of how quickly you just get covered in slows and can't move. Can't interact, and you just die.
I think inherently slows are just not fun mechanic. Similar to iframes, which is why people before used to complain about Sorks, because there's nothing more frustrating than not being able to counterplay an ability because they're unhittable. Same with Sage, iframes, unhittable. It's unfun, except they have an omnidirectional iframe that they can actually move in, where Sorks, when they use their iframe, they're going one direction.
And
slows, I think they should be capped around 30, 25%. I think that's pretty fun.
That's what I think as well. 25-30 is a great number for it. And yeah, the engage distance that Rift Chain goes is absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's like a single TP. So you use 2 and you're basically 2 TP range, and you can still do 6 more at least.
After we went out of that 4v4 Tuesday night, I watched the rest of your fight from your point of view, right? And you were calling Sages in from a distance, and I got hit by this, but didn't really notice it. I mean, I noticed you were sending Sages in, right? But like, how far the engage range is, it's insane, right? Like, you were standing at a rock outside of our base that was at meteor distance, and you called Sages in, and then there were Sages in the middle of my ball, standing at meteor distance. It was like, what the hell?
Yeah,
Shit's
I mean,
insane.
it's not a fun class. Like, I mean, like you said, like I said, I personally think the super armor nerfs super needed. You need to be able to hit them in between their iframe rift chain, but I also think their damage is still going to be too high. I mean, 10%, 12%, I don't even know what it was, 12 to 18% on one of the abilities. Some of those abilities with ebuff or even without ebuff can hit you for 5,000-6,000. So 10% of 6,000, you're still going to get hit for 5,400. Most players that are high end, they're pushing 6k HP. So you live with 500, 600 HP. Like, you're still basically dead if one other person hits you with anything. It's still not enough of a damage nerf. I know Sages are going to cry about it, but I mean, let's be real. That class is not balanced. It's not fun to play against. It might be fun for the person playing it because, I mean, you're one-shotting like 10 people with one ability, but there's no counterplay to someone holding shift and A. So they've got to change it. They've got to nerf it more. Wizard change. They got hit pretty decent. Maybe we'll see how good they are. I still think they're going to be a powerhouse, but it's just range for you.
Yeah. Well, no, the Sage changes. I don't think there's any Sage in their right mind. I don't think anyone is upset about these changes. If anyone is actually upset about these changes, they're delusional.
There are a lot of people,
but they're delusional.
There are a lot of people upset about these changes, Pex.
That's just people with their head up their own ass. With Wizard changes, I like them. I think there's more to come. I'm pretty sure I've seen several classes get nerfed.
Yeah.
I mean, I played Sucksork, right? And it got hit over and over again, right? And it's just like, this is just the beginning. I think there'll be a couple more. These changes are very good. Being able to interrupt Meteor is going to be huge, actually. Voltaic, messing with the wizard armor. Their 1v1s hurt bad. Like their super armor rotations hurt fairly bad. They're gonna have to change that somehow. And being able to having to think before they engage is really what's
you
going to
can't
slow down
meteor in the
play.
middle of a ball. I
Right.
still think the Voltaic Frigid combo is quick enough to where you're probably getting knocked out a few times, but it's really fast. It's like within a second you have both abilities out if you're playing right. So it might affect like a group of wizards versus wizards jumping into each other. Might be some ping difference. Maybe you might see it in that effect. The biggest change is the meteor. You can't Voltaic Frigid middle of group next ability throw a meteor right in the middle, 20 people, and expect to still get it off.
Yeah.
So that's a decent change. I think if you really want to nerf wizards, you just go slow nerf, especially suck wizards. What really makes them oppressive is the meteor CC, the quick engage, which they're getting rid of by making Voltaic at least unprotected, and then slows, really slows. Being able
And
to
the
stack someone to
heals.
60+% slow is ridiculous when you can do it in like one ability, two abilities.
Yeah.
The
And yeah, the
heals are
hills,
kind of insane.
hills are nice. I'm not really sure they could do team nerf or team hill nerf more. Leave the self hill, I guess, because why not? I'm not really sure. I think some of those abilities should go to Shy personally, because I think Shy is kind of useless besides standing there and getting killed for free. So
It's completely useless.
I think the one
Completely.
biggest thing I ever noticed from Shies was when a guild does a group respawn and Shy bubbles on top of the fort. That just
yeah, I mean that's really all they can do, like once every 5-6 minutes. I mean they could
I mean,
speed
they
spell
have-
your sages so they can one shot people, I guess.
they also have some crazy buffs and debuffs. Like
Yeah, they have good buffs. I just think they're not good enough with their their mobility's too low for like quick movement. Like you can't expect to have a Shy move, let's say 50 to 100 meters, not on a horse, and keep those buffs rolling and be impactful. Like if you ever see them, they're like jump stepping and
Yep.
throwing their boomerang up, trying to keep up, and then the fight starts and they're halfway across the map trying to run to you still so they could bongo. I mean, yeah, Wizard. I think Wizard will be fine. Nerf slows stacking overall. I mean, we'll still see the same meta, maybe with the buffs to some of these rat classes, DKs. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Awakens. I doubt it, but if they buff them enough, we'll see some more variation of classes.
I don't think
all of our
you've,
DKs run Awaken.
Yeah, it gives them the ability to chip damage and actually be useful besides jumping in and getting hit by slows and dying instantly.
the other
Range is
thing
very powerful.
I don't think we've experienced the Valkyrie suck meta. We experienced that a little bit on tier 1s.
It's getting nerfed too at the same time as Wizard.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we're a little bit short on time, so I'll just say, thank you to Loads and Packs for spending the time this weekend with us and sharing their valuable insight. Is there any last words you guys want to say before I ended the podcast?
Sure, yeah, I'll go and throw a tidbit. I think a lot of people are complaining about nerfs and all this stuff, but I mean, the game's been in a way worse state for like over a year. At least they're actually nerfing some classes and changing things. Node Wars, new Node Wars, they've got to fix them. And I mean, for any Node War guilds that are out there, really, it's on us to make good fights, at least right now until the new Node War system, because when we get that, it's going to be a lot of dodging. And honestly think as a community, we're going to regret not taking advantage of still getting fights nowadays.
I'll go ahead and throw out there that 1 second, I lost my train of thought. You know what? Give me just
Also, nerf BSR abilities or change them. I don't think some classes should have BSRs that are game changing, and others have Z buffs. Basically, primarily looking at like Valks and stuff. They're way too powerful.
yeah.
One person
Yeah.
being able to get potentially 20 kills by pressing a suck into your ult and just hoping you don't get grabbed. It's not a fun mechanic. Similar to iframes. It's nothing more unenjoyable than getting one shot by a guy.
Come on now, don't ask PA to nerf relevance. That's not nice. So what I was gonna say was, I think this is the first time. Again, we've been playing forever, right? We've hit these changes where they do balance changes, and then everyone cries, and half the game quits and comes back a week later because they're all throwing tantrums like a bunch of teenagers. It's the first time we've ever gone into a set of changes, and more of the player base is excited than upset. And I think that's a good thing. It means they're listening to us, which is something that before, when PvP changes or balance changes would come through, people were just like, where in the hell are you getting these ideas? What is wrong with you people? and I think that's good. The node war changes and this new wicked sheriff system, these are things that PA is just trying to throw into the pool to see how we feel about it. These are not things that anyone's requesting, and I understand that. But what they're trying to do is extend the longevity of the game. They're trying to give us things to do. It's very obvious that they're trying to work towards open world PvP being filler and something to entertain people more than Node Wars, because right now they don't know what to do with the Node Wars system because they didn't balance this game around 700 gear score, and we're about 5 months from that being the norm. Maybe 685 being the norm. But like, I think these balance changes are good. I think it's good signs for the future, and I think that we shouldn't worry too much because it actually feels like they want us to like the game now, which is not something that they've done in the past.
Yep, definitely agree with that. All right, I just want to thank you guys again, Loads and Packs, for coming on to the podcast and sharing your insight. I hope you both enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoy the Arena of Arsha semi-finals if you're planning to watch that. But yeah, I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
Have a good day, boys.
I guess.
Okay, that was good. I think that was good. I think that went really well, guys. Alright, if you guys have want to talk about anything, we can spend a couple minutes talking about what was discussed in the podcast today, and then I want to go through